Welcome to episode 232 of KT Confidential, the real estate podcast. Today, we talk about radon. Is radon killing your family? We'll find out. Hang on.
Hello, everybody.
Let me get settled. There we go. We good? Should I be closer?
No, it's fine.
All right.
So the first time...
Thank you, Robbie.
Okay, let's just, first of all, tell the audience what we're talking about. Today, we're talking about radon. And then we'll begin.
Yeah.
So the first time I ever heard...
You don't like my title? Is radon killing your kids?
Radon killing your kids? Or just killing you? Actually, kids are more likely because radon is more prominently found in basements. So if you're sending your kids to play in the basement, which is probably common...
A lot of people
have a higher
A lot of smokers also smoke in the basement.
Who the fuck smokes in their basement?
Oh, a lot of smokers.
Oh my goodness.
I was just talking to an ex-colleague of ours that's where they smoke.
Currently.
I
find not many people smoke these days.
Not many people smoke in their homes these days.
Or smoke as much, period.
Yes, because they're all dead.
And it's expensive. They're all dead. So
you think 20 years ago, there was shit ton of people smoking in their homes.
Yeah. So
you ever been on a flight where they were smoking on the flight?
No. Yeah. Well, maybe when I was a kid, but I don't remember it.
Yeah.
That would be very unpleasant.
Yeah.
So we're talking about radon. Radon is a naturally occurring gas that is toxic, and it is next to lung cancer is the next to smoking is the number one cause of lung cancer, or we'll call it number two cause of lung cancer.
Yes.
At least in North America, to my knowledge.
The exact description of what radon is a radioactive gas that forms naturally when uranium, thorium, what the fuck is thorium, or radium, which are radioactive metals, I guess that's what it is, breaks down in rocks, soil, and groundwater. People can be exposed to radon primarily from breathing it in the air that comes through the cracks and gaps in buildings and homes.
Right. So the first time I ever heard of it, I was chatting with a general contractor who'd been in the business for a number of years. And he brought it up, and he was saying that there was a lot of home builders or contractors, sub-trades, especially people that were doing foundations and stuff like that, and excavation, who were just dropping dead. He's like, all these old Italian guys are dropping dead and nobody knows why. And then they...
Too much pasta.
Apparently attributed it to radon as being one of the factors. So at that point, when I heard about it, it scared me. So I went and got all this stuff for my house. Now I monitor my air quality.
So I do want to talk about that a little bit, because I remember when you went on this 2-week splurge of purchasing, installing, talking about it every day here at the office.
Mm-hmm.
So what led you down the path of the product that you bought? What product did you buy?
So first of all, I thought it was important to have something monitoring it. But my wife, Alicia, and Tessa, primarily those two, they have asthma. McKenna is not, I don't think, has been diagnosed with it, but the two of them are. So anything air related, I took a keen interest in. So I just started researching it, and I found I always get sucked into the tech ones, like this one it's all Wi-Fi. You got a mobile app, you can track it. And that's their thing is they have the home version, and then they have the industrial stuff. So that's all they do is air quality testing. And it's predominantly radon stuff. And anyway, so I've got 5 sensors throughout the house. 3 of them are more just air quality, like humidity and air pressure and stuff like that. And then I have 2 of them that do detect radon. So one in the family room upstairs and then one in the basement.
So from your thorough analysis and research, why do you have one on the second floor and one in the basement?
Well, originally I only had one that detected radon because they were more expensive. I think they were $300 each. So I only had purchased one of those, and the other 3 smaller ones I had still. And I had it in the basement. But then I thought, well, nobody really spends a lot of time in the basement, so I'm going to move it upstairs. So that's what I did. But then later I'm like, well, it's more likely to be in the basement. So I want to see how it compares from the basement to the second level.
So all these articles that we've read recently talk about extended periods of time or extended exposure to radon. So you talk about like being in the basement. If you go to the basement an hour a day,
it's probably fine.
It's probably fine.
But
if you're sleeping in the basement,
probably not so fine.
Probably
or if you live in a basement apartment.
Yes.
Right. That can be an issue.
So let's talk about then our office where we're sitting right now.
It's very likely. I mean, it's always present. It's just a matter of to what degree. So
we could be killing ourselves at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is we're not in the lower level. So it's probably less present here than it is downstairs.
Downstairs immediately below us.
The midwives and all the babies.
The midwives and all the babies. So are your kids safe?
Well, that's just short-term exposure. The midwives, not so much, but for the kids.
So interestingly, in Guelph, as an example, a lot of the newer homes do have a radon mitigation system installed.
I did not know that.
Yes, I represented...
by the builder.
By the builder. I represented a purchaser that ended up buying one of these homes.
Did you see it?
Yes.
Was it in the sump pump? Or was it just into the concrete?
There was no sump pump. So it went right down into the beyond the foundation.
Yeah.
And then there was mechanical system that sucks
it's just a fan. Basically just a fan that sucks air. And it
looked pretty industrial, like pretty intense. And it literally shoots it right off, right out of the, somewhere on the roof.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I've never seen one actually in person. I've researched
Well, what's neat about that is it's totally unobtrusive, right? Like it's not something you're installing after. So if you have to install it after, it's a much more daunting task and probably could be easily identifiable to the eye from the outside of the building. So when the home builder
because the venting goes through the interior of the house in this case.
In this case, it does. It's just like your part of your HVAC, but it vents right out the roof.
Right.
So you didn't even know. You didn't even see it.
Right. Yeah. Well, so there's two articles that came across, I was going to say my desk. Metaphorical desk. You sent one and I had one come through my notifications on my phone.
Yeah.
So and there's interesting. They're both from Calgary. So I wonder if Calgary is more, if it's more common to find there. And there was the one I was reading was a woman who I don't know what prompted her to test for it, but she was testing for it and realized that she'd been living in this house for a decade and had numbers that were exceeding the Canadian limit, which is 200. I don't remember the word. I have it here somewhere. Whatever measurement it is, 200 is Canadian. The World Health Organization is 100. It's half of what the Canadian recommendation is for exposure. And she was over the Canadian one. So she was trying to get a scan of her lungs done as somebody would if, maybe they were smokers. I think once you're a smoker for 20 years or something, you're allowed to go get, through OHIP, you can go get a scan done to see how your lungs are doing. So she was complaining because they wouldn't give it to her, even though she'd have been exposed to this.
Well, interestingly, this survey from the University of Calgary says that 1/3 of the people that do have exposure to radon at unacceptable levels cannot afford the proper mitigation.
So I question that because You can.
That's just the study that
No,
they did.
I know. So I was wondering, I glanced at that article that you sent, but there was no mention of price. So,
Right.
and I've researched it before because I'm probably going to install one because I think, the lower you can get those numbers, the better. And you can buy the fan, with the fan and some of the ductwork for it for like $200 to $500. So
just vent it on the other side of your house, please.
Well, you have to go out and then you'd probably go up to like halfway to the second story or something, right? But it would be because I've read that you can do it into the sump pump if you have a sump pump. So you could do it in the pit there.
Yes.
Rather than chewing up the floor. But anyways, the price is fairly reasonable. It's not, I don't know how much the labor would be on that. You'd probably have $500 to $1,000 in parts and about the same. Yeah. So maybe a couple grand.
What's reasonable to you might not be reasonable to a family with.
Well, how much is a furnace? $5,000. Is that reasonable? Are we going to write an article now about how people can't afford a furnace?
That's why Reliance is doing so well with renting furnaces.
Well, there you go. Reliance should start renting radon mitigation systems.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, tag Reliance in this
Spend
post.
$10,000 over 5 years on this $2,000 install.
You think you were getting screwed on your hot water tank? Wait till you get a radon mitigation system installed.
And so radon, though, the big thing, and I think you mentioned it, is long-term testing is important because it does fluctuate. In fact, when I go away, so every time we go up to our cottage, or go away, period, for a week at a time, and I log in and look at the numbers, because there's nobody at home, the ventilation is lacking, the windows aren't open, the doors aren't opening.
Right.
It does get up to warning levels. You okay?
Yeah, the new sweater.
This new sweater's bugging you.
It's because my ears are so big too,
Why don't
right?
you zip it up all the way? I know you like that. Oh, there.
See, this one actually zips.
Yeah.
Can you zip it? Can you zip your?
I was worried about my beard. I can zip it.
You look like a pinhead.
Well, so do you. Anybody looks like a pinhead when they zip up their collar.
Okay,
if you're listening to the podcast, I apologize. You got to check it out on YouTube to see what's going on right now.
You got to watch. And you can do that by going to ktconfidential.ca. It'll take you right to the YouTube playlist where you can watch 231 prior episodes. I think we have both.
Anyways, so my levels do get high when there's no ventilation in the house.
Right. But high to a point where it's unsafe?
Long-term exposure, yeah. I'll pull it up for a second and I'll see if I can see what it...
What is the brand?
So it's called Air Things.
Air Things.
And they have a number of different products.
So here's what we'll do. We'll put the product that you bought, because you swear by this thing.
Yeah.
We'll put the product that you bought in our Amazon store so you can go and check it out. And we'll leave the link in the description.
We'll put a link in the description here, yeah.
And if you want to buy it, we'll make it easy for you.
All right, let's see. So my basement right now is at 63.
Okay. So you're below World Health standards.
The World Health limit is 100.
Yeah.
Is 100. So I'm doing okay. Let's go. If we go back a year.
Now, interestingly, so as most of you know that are watching and listening, Adrian and I are next door neighbors. And what I found interesting is that you could be testing for fantastic numbers for radon, and my home could be brutal.
Yeah. So
it's not just a area thing or whatever.
No, it could. You just may have a higher concentration of these metals that are radioactive metals that are deteriorating under your house, but not mine.
Yeah. It's just like a dead body could be under yours and not mine.
That could be contributing to the radioactiveness. Actually, mine is pretty good. I don't know why it's not showing me. Oh, you know what? I must have moved them around in the house. So I don't have last year's numbers. But the highest number I have right now is 80.
Right.
So it's pretty good.
So the point of this conversation is get yourself aware. I think that's the first thing, because a lot of people are not familiar.
Yeah.
Understand that this could be a thing in your home or your place of business.
Yeah. Actually, I have a family member, ex-family member, who recently was found to have stage 4 lung cancer, who's fortunately doing well. But she's never smoked. She was not a smoker. Maybe a little bit of pot every now and then. That was it.
A little bit.
A little bit. I don't know to what degree. But not regular. And certainly not cigarettes. And she lived in a basement for a long period of time. I wonder if that was a contributing factor.
Well, you think back, like who knows where you lived as a kid or as a teenager.
Fuck, I used to spend tons of time in my basement.
Yeah.
Nobody even knew what radon was then. Most people listening to this have never heard of it.
Well, it's the same thing that happens with all kinds of building materials that later people found out. Like asbestos as an example. So, I mean, if you were installing asbestos in the 60s or 70s or whatever, you probably have lung cancer or will have lung cancer.
Yeah. Well, I found out our cottage, there's underneath the current tiles are asbestos tiles.
Oh, boy.
So if there's ever a reno, you just got to make sure you wear the proper equipment.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as it's not disturbed, it's fine.
Yeah.
So get yourself aware, get yourself educated, basically. One little tip right now that I have is a lot of libraries, especially around Southern Ontario, are offering test kits for up to 3 renewals. So you can sign it out like you would a book.
Or something?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But yeah, so you can sign it out. They obviously are limited to how many they have. Sign it out. Test your home.
I think there's even government websites which we can link to in the description where you can go in and get testing things. But they're not long term, so it is if you feel it's something that you're concerned about, get something that you own and you can keep in the house long term to monitor it properly.
Well, and this unit that you have is portable, right? So if you move, you take it with you.
It looks like a smoke detector, basically.
Right.
So, and you can adjust the placement of it, whatever. So 1 year you have it one area, next year you do it somewhere else and see how it differs.
Yeah. So if you guys have any thoughts, any questions about this topic, leave us a comment. But that's it for today. Educate yourself and make sure that you and your family are not going to die.
Bye for now.
See ya. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching episode 232. Come back next week. We're going to talk about multiple offers.